I'm
Good evening. I'm going to call the meeting to order. I think it's 7 o'clock on the nose, but 6:59, but we'll go ahead anyway. You can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Just for the record, Mr. DeBrego is ill tonight, so will not be here, and we have the Joseph A. Foreign Choral Ensemble, led by Ms. Teresa Voss here this evening to entertain us with some holiday songs. Thank you. That's you. Yep, you're up.
Here we come a-wassailing among the leaves so green. Here we come a-wandering so fair to be seen. Love and joy come to you, and to you you'll wassail too. And God bless you and send you a happy new year. And God send you a happy new year. We are not daily beggars that beg from door to door, but we are neighbors' children whom you have seen before. Love and joy come to you, and to you your wassail too. And God bless you and send you a happy new year. And God send you a happy new year. God bless the master of this house, likewise the mistress too, and all the little children that round the table go. Love and joy come to you, and to you your wassail too. And God bless you and send you a happy new year. And God send you a happy new year.
Will also be heard on Wednesday evening at our school winter concert featuring jazz band, concert band, string orchestra, this ensemble, the vocal ensemble, and concert choir. That begins at 7 o'clock at Foreign High School on Wednesday. Please do come. This is a Spanish carol, Boom, Boom, Boom.
On December 5 and 20, foom, foom, foom. On December 5 and 20, foom, foom, foom. Oh, a child was born this night, so rosy white, so rosy white. Son of Mary, Virgin Holy, in a stable mean and lowly, foom, foom, foom. On December 5 and 20, foom, 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 foom. On December 5 and 20, foom, foom, foom. On December's most important day, let us be gay, let us be gay. We go first to church and then we have his feet, his buns and candy, foom, 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 foom. God will send us days of feasting, foom, 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 foom. God will send us days of feasting, foom, foom, foom. Oh, the hot months and in cold for young and old, for young and old. And we tell the holy story, ever singing of his glory, foom, foom, foom.
And this next one is their favorite to sing, Carol of the Bells.
Hark how the bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say, throw cares away, Christmas is here, bringing good cheer to young and old, meek and the bold. Ding dong, that is our song, with joyful ring, all caroling. One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, what they sound, raising the sound, what in a dance, all in a dance, killing the ring, while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Ding dong, Merry, Merry Christmas, Merry, Merry, Merry Christmas. Listen, all the fun and their joyful tone to every home. bell, Christmas here, ring. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, praising the sound, hallelujah, hallelujah. Gaily they ring while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding. On they stand on without end, their joyful tone to every home. Ding dong, ding dong.
That was lovely, thank you. All right, now we'll move on to our student reports. You have a tough act to follow. Law goes first, according to my notes.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you're having a pleasant evening. Starting off with academics, the Law Academic Support Center has had 780 drop-ins so far. This is a 51% increase since last year. The average growth in points and students attending the support center has been 25.5 points. Students have recently taken the November and December SATs and ACTs. An AP Psychology student recently held a school-wide zombie brain restaurant project where groups created themed cafes about different parts of the brain. They explained how the brain works while also serving food to the entire school. In athletics news, 86% of fall sports teams qualified for state tournaments. 7 athletes earned all SCC team honors in their respective sports: Jack Pincus Coyle, Bethany Edwards, Kristen Pissarro, Kristen Frank, Mitchell Smith, Jake Mola, and Justin Abe. Kevin Lynn, in addition to an all-SCC state team's honor, he was also named to the boys soccer all-state team. Every single fall student remained academically eligible, and winter sports began practices, and girls basketball, started their season tonight. In guidance news, 53% of seniors have applied to 4-year universities as of the state. Seniors who applied in early action or early decision have started to receive acceptance letters from colleges. While seniors have already been accepted to 22 schools, including Pennsylvania State University, Xavier University, Tulane University, Siena College, Elon University, and I myself was accepted to Temple University recently. 3 on-site field admissions were held from Quinnipiac University, University of New Haven, and Southern Connecticut State University. All students who saw University of New Haven were accepted, while nearly all were accepted to Quinnipiac and Southern Connecticut State. And in Law Amazing news, Spirit Week wrapped up with multiple themed days, culminating in a pep rally for the Thanksgiving powder puff and football games. Choir sang in the Milford Hospital, while wall capellas sang to the elderly. Homecoming was a success, and every student who attended had fun. The winter concert is being held tomorrow, December 13th, with performances from the various law band, choirs, and string orchestras. And this Thursday, we have the Lip Sync Battle, which is a fundraiser for the indoor track team, which will be a fun time to all who attend. Welcome Back Graduates will be held January 5th in next year. And broadcast journalism students recently entered a statewide kindness PSA contest with a cash prize of $500. Senior clothing sales have begun, and choir will be visiting middle schools on December 22nd. The National Honor Society has started the annual Giving Tree, while Kindness Club have begun selling ornaments. And in recent news about the Law United Way fundraiser, the school is aiming to raise $3,000. Money will be raised with pledges by students. Students who raise the most money will compete in a backyard sports like Olympic tournament. Prizes include the underclassmen and juniors getting to be able to eat lunch in the senior cafe if they win, while seniors will have a lunch catered by Principal Thompson if they won. And the most exciting part of that is that Principal Thompson has promised that if we manage to raise $3,000, he will shave his head in 2017. Other prizes include faculty members being Principal Thompson for a day, while Principal Thompson teaches their class. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Warren?
Good evening, everyone. On Friday, November 9th, students in Ms. Gilman's United Nations class attended the Fairfield University Final United Nations Conference. Students debated international issues ranging from the proposed World Cup of Hockey to the issues associated with antibiotic-resistant tuberculosis. students did an excellent job in their assigned roles, resulting in a total of 6 awards for the students, the most of any school in attendance. We are very proud to share that 19 students will represent Foreign High School in the Connecticut Music Educators Association Southern Region High School Music Festival this year. These students will rehearse and present a concert at Middletown High School on January 13th and 14th with students from other area high schools. These students have worked very hard to be selected in this highly competitive ensemble. They are now eligible to audition for the All-State Music Festival. Journalism had great guest speakers on Thursday from Sacred Heart University with former newspaper staff writer and foreign alum Fallon Bavina. Students reviewed the Code of Ethics for Journalism and learned the power of the media and advertising. The freshman team of Mrs. Furdeck, Mrs. Pangu, and Mrs. O'Keefe kicked off the Kindness Initiative with an assembly on Tuesday for all 9th graders during common time. Students were invited to be mindful about how they treat each other and introduced to the idea of spreading intentional kindness through a brief introduction to the Ben's Bells campaign. The 9th graders followed up on this by making a Ben's Bell with their advisory teacher and a natural helper on Wednesday during common time. These bells will be distributed around the Milford community in the coming weeks to spread kindness from students at Joseph A. Foreign. The concept of Pay It Forward was also introduced with a short video clip, and more will follow on that for the 9th graders. Kindness, like leadership, is a skill that can be worked on, and we hope to promote a positive environment here at the high school with 9th graders leading the way. As for guidance, we have on-site admissions at Foreign with Southern Connecticut State University and the University of New Haven. We are hosting on-site admissions with Western Connecticut on December 15th. 62% of our senior class have applied to at least one college so far. And Olivia Liu was selected to attend the Hobie Leadership Conference in June at the University of Bridgeport.
In extracurricular activities, on Thursday, November 10th, the Key Club officers delivered 44 handmade fleece blankets to the Yale New Haven Children's Hospital. So the Foreign Key Club teamed up with the Kiwanis of Milford, which is their sponsoring club, and they both donated money toward these proceeds. Foreign Key Club members eagerly worked week in after day to make these blankets by cutting 2 fleece squares measuring 1/3 yard each and then cutting the strips on the end. From there, handmade, they had to tie all of them together in order to make their product. They were extremely proud to see the outcome, especially knowing that the blankets will be given to the babies in the Yale Neonatal Intensive Care Unit. In November, we held a volleyball fundraiser for the United Way that raised over $1,100. This was a foreign faculty versus foreign student fundraiser, and the faculty won 2-1. But there was high participation in a large crowd. We strive to serve the community. In athletics, a special thanks to the Milford Elks Club and Devon Rotary. The Elks hosted their annual sportsmanship dinner and invited both Law and Foreign's football and cheerleading squads. The Devon Rotary hosted a football's captain's breakfast as well for both teams. It was a great way to start the Thanksgiving week. Also during the Thanksgiving week, the Foreign Lions defeated Jonathan Law in both powder puff and football. Both games were very competitive and the fans in attendance had a great time. Congratulations to senior captain Brett Huber on the football team on setting the state record in Connecticut for most receptions in a season with 106. That is a great achievement. Winter sports captains attended the STC Captains Council last week at the Floyd Little Athletic Center in New Haven. Sportsmanship and leadership were main topics of discussions. Captains were then grouped by sport with local college coaches that they talked about the recruiting process, the differences between high school and college athletics, and the leadership experience that they should be doing in their team themselves. Winter practices are in full swing and games begin this week. The athletic department invites all board members to come in attendance. On December 16th, Foreign will hold its annual winter pep rally. Great activities are planned and we are all looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you guys want to leave and go to do your homework, you're welcome. We'll move on to public comment. Speakers may offer objective comments about school operations and programs. The board encourages speakers not to express personal complaints or defamatory comments about the Milford Board of Education personnel or any person associated with Milford Public Schools. Security issues and matters relating to negotiations and grievances will not be permitted. Consistent with the principles of the Federal Education Right to Privacy Act, discussion of students is prohibited, absent parental waiver. Please be advised the meetings are live on Channel 78 on Cablevision, and we ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name and address for the record. Is there anybody that cares to address the board this evening? Okay, seeing none, we'll just move on to chair's report. I'll be brief since we have a very big agenda tonight. I just want to remind the board that we do not have a committee of the whole meeting this month. We come back together in January for the business meeting, which begins the budget process. You should have all received your budget workshop dates. in a Friday update 3 weeks ago. If you didn't see it or you need another copy, you can ask Mrs. Griffin for one. And I also sent everyone a message last week that we will have a committee of the whole meeting in January, so make sure that stays on your calendars. And I just want to wish everyone a healthy and joyful holiday. I also would like to just recognize, it was just a year ago that Board Member John DeRosa passed away, so I'd ask everyone to keep his family in your thoughts over the coming weeks. Are there any liaison reports? Mr. Whiskeyman?
As usual at this time of the year, ACES does its design awards to its students. I'm wearing the winning design. And I have some cards here of the other winning designs from the various different students, which I'm going to pass along to you to look. Unfortunately, they've sold out. They're completely sold out, so their cards are not available for those who might be interested this year. But that's some of the best of the cards that I've seen, and so that's one of the reasons they sold out. But so very happy to display the winning design and pass along the winning cards. It is a joyful time at this time of the year.
Thank you, Mr. Whiskeyman. Ms. Federico, did I see your hand up?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so the Permanent School Building Committee met last week, and we discussed and reviewed the quotes that had come in for the West Shore Middle School project that is slated to begin later this winter. And we reviewed a few outstanding ongoing projects. The Jonathan Law abatement was completed last year, but we have another section to do on the second floor for next summer. We talked about the Harborside Middle School. The roof is just about completed in terms of the punch list work, and the windows will be done next summer. The 4 elementary school roofs that were done this past summer, are also just about finished up, and we have 4 more roofs coming up next summer. And that was it.
Thank you. Any other liaison reports? All right, then I'll turn the meeting over to Dr. Fieser.
Thank you, Mrs. Lennon. So we are really excited this evening to have with us Jessica Broxham, who's our new Connecticut Kid Governor for 2017. And we wanted to bring her this evening so that all of you could have a chance to meet her and the public would be able to see her on television. And also to hear a little more about the program itself. So normally I get up and I do all of the talking. I'm not going to do that this evening. I'm going to start this by first introducing Jessica's teacher, Mrs. Donna Stewart, who is the 5th grade social studies teacher at John F. Kennedy School. And she's going to just give you some details on what this whole program was about, because it's really exciting that our student was chosen from across the state. Stewart?
Thank you, Dr. Fieser, for having me, and board members for having me here tonight. Any opportunity to celebrate or recognize Jessica, I'm there. It's my honor to be her teacher. It's my honor to share in this life-changing journey for her, because this is an awesome opportunity, and she's a very lucky girl, a very deserving girl. So yeah, let me tell you a little bit about the program. The Connecticut Kid Governor program is a very user-friendly and comprehensive civics program designed to teach 5th graders about civics and civic engagement. It's run by the Connecticut Public Affairs Network, and they're trying to have students realize at a young age the importance of civics engagement. I actually have been talking to them about hopefully next year piloting with the high schools. He's looking at bridging that gap between the civics credits that they have to take in high school and the elementary students. And so maybe having the civics students come into my classroom, work with the 5th graders next year, whether it's with the kids making their speeches or researching their topics, or even working with them on their videos. So we're hopefully going to be talking about that next year and bridging that gap. Next year, well, first, I heard about the program over the summer. I just happened to be cleaning, and I heard Connecticut 5th grade Connecticut Kid Governor is going to be appearing at a local library. And I was like, what? What's that? Because, of course, anything having to do with 5th grade and social studies caught my attention. This is the second year of the program. So Elena Tipton from East Hartford is the current Connecticut Kid Governor, so she was the first. And it kind of didn't really get out there, and that's why I hadn't heard about it. If I had heard about it last year, I would have definitely run the program, but I didn't know about it. So it caught my attention, and then Brian, our instructional social studies supervisor, had sent out the information. So as soon as I made that connection, I said, oh, this is definitely something that I want to get involved with and I want to do. So 51 of the students at JFK, which is all of our 5th grade, participated in the whole entire program. The program included Connecticut's 3 branches of government elections, how to vote, how to run for office, and campaign platforms. 45% of my students decided that they actually wanted to run to be a candidate. So that was quite a large group. That included leaders in our school. It included students with IEPs. It included students that lack in social and emotional skills. So I was thrilled to know that they had enough confidence and courage in themselves to even attempt this. So they had to do actually a little bit more work than just all the other students that were running through the program. We discussed community issues, and each student chose one to research that they were passionate about. You'll hear about her passion, and she took it and ran with it. After researching that issue, they crafted a platform with a 3-step plan of action and wrote a speech. Then we had to hold in-class primaries, because now I had like 6 to 8 students in each one of my classes that wanted to run. So we had to run in-class primaries. Mr. Smith was lucky enough to be witness to one of them, and we had a really good time. The kids had to get up and give their speeches to their classmates, and then they chose the one student from the classes to move forward. Then we had to have an all 5th grade primary for those 3 candidates, and they had to work on their speeches a little bit more and then give their speeches to the whole entire 5th grade. Then all the 5th grade went to our polling station and they filled out ballots, and Jessica became the candidate for our school. So now we were going to submit her to the statewide election. 20 schools submitted candidates around the state. They had to submit videos. Those videos were reviewed by an adult panel who then narrowed it down from 20 candidates to 7. And basically, what they did was they established that 7 videos was about the attention span of an average 5th grader. So they figured 7 was the number that they were going to top it off at. So the field got narrowed from 20 to 7, which Jessica was a part of. Then the registered 5th grade students, which were 4,400 students across the state, viewed and analyzed those 7 videos, one of them being Jessica's. And we did that during election week. While adults were going to the polls on election day, we watched videos and analyzed them for their platforms and their issues, which was really important. And the kids took their role very seriously. So they analyzed those videos, and then once again they went to the polls and they cast their ballots for the candidate. And they all, those 4,400, voted Jessica Broxham as our next Connecticut Kid Governor. She is going to be an inspiration to everyone. She's an inspiration to me every day. I've already seen her in action. We've had some meetings. We had a transition meeting, just like the president is having their transition meeting last week, and she got to meet the current Kid Governor. There's some pictures on the site of the 2 of them. They're kind of pulling at the sash because the current Kid Governor doesn't want to give it up just yet. She will hold an office at the old State House in Hartford, so that's where we held our meeting, was in their office. It's a very big honor for her, and she's got this. She is fearless. She's done radio interviews already. She's done some videos. And one take is pretty much. She did an interview with the mayor last week, right? One take, that was it. So she's got this. Very deserving, and it's an honor to be here to tell you all about her accomplishments.
Thank you, Mrs. Stewart. And so I'm going to ask Jessica, would you come up and just very briefly share with the board and our public here your platform? You want to come up here?
I would first like to thank Dr. Fieser and all of the Board of Education for inviting me today, and I would like to also say that it's an honor to be here and have this opportunity. My platform is on animal cruelty and I am very passionate about stopping it. And I came up with this idea because I knew I kind of got inspired by Elena because her platform was kindness, and I thought not as many animals are getting as kind as people are getting kind. So I wanted people to be kind to animals instead of people being kind to people as much. So I wanted animals to be treated how they should instead of being treated like they shouldn't. I have gotten so much help and support from my classmates, and they have done things such as telling me amazing ideas for my videos. They've told me little tips on how to do speeches, and they've told me so many things that I'm using right now and I'm going to use forever. So I'm just very excited, and I can't wait to do more about it.
So Jessica, come on over here.
Oh yeah, I have to sing it in the
Sorry.
I have 3 ways to help stop with animal cruelty, and they all are: I first want to make a tougher law concerning those who are responsible for animal cruelty. Second, I want to make a presentation to educate all the kids in Connecticut in elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools, so they know what can happen and what can happen to animals and you when animal cruelty is done. And third, I want to make a fundraiser and collection drives to collect things like toys, treats, foods, or blankets to be given to the animal shelters or pounds with and for the animals. Yes.
Okay.
That's all.
I want you to stand here, because what we're now going to show is her video. It's 3 minutes, so you get a sense of, again, 4,600 kids voted. Not that they all voted specifically for Jessica, but certainly of the 7 videos, hers was selected.
I'm Jessica, you're the next state governor. I want you to vote for me because I want to build on the great work of our current state governor has done with kindness. I'm passionate about showing not only kindness to each other, but to the animals of our state that need a voice. My animal friends, and as you can see, they don't have a voice because they're stuffed animals. But neither do real animals. That's why I want to be the person that gives them a voice. I know that in our state, animal cruelty has currently scarred, injured, and sadly killed animals. And also in 1996, 9.1 million animals got abused. 49% of the animals got killed, and 70% of the animal abusers did another crime.
Jessica should be the new kid governor because she is very responsible. She is always prepared.
My first idea into doing this is I want to work with government officials about making tougher laws. I want to make, instead of a $5,000 fine and 5-year jail time, I want to make a $6,000 fine and a 6-year jail time for animal cruelty. Second idea is educate all the students in the great state of Connecticut about animal cruelty. I will create a presentation to be sent into all schools in our state. I'm hoping this presentation will help raise awareness to help stop animal cruelty. Here I am at my local animal shelter to talk to you about my third step in my plan to help fight animal cruelty. I will run a fundraiser and encourage those of you that want to help me in my fight to also run. This fundraiser will help animals that have found their way to the animal shelter by collecting food, treats, toys, and blankets for them to stay while we are there.
Jessica should be the next kid governor because she's very passionate about her platform. I know she won't stop until animal cruelty is stopped. She is also a natural-born animal lover because instead of adopting animals, she rescues them.
When I become your next Connecticut state governor, I will be committed to focus on making a difference for the animals of our state. I am confident that with my vision for awareness and plan of action, it will result in a change for those who do not have a voice. With your help, I honestly believe we can
to inspire others to be kinder to our furry friends too. On Election Day, a vote for me is a vote for our animals. Thank you for your cooperation.
Before I formally introduce Jessica and have her meet all of you, I'd like to ask Mr. Smith, Principal of John F. Kennedy, if he would want to say a few words and maybe talk a little bit about looking ahead.
Sure, thank you, Dr. Feaser. Good evening, board members. Thank you for having us here tonight. We're all tremendously proud of Jessica for what she's accomplished. November 23rd was the day that we announced that she had won, and it was a really exciting day at JFK. The director of the program had told Mrs. Stewart and I that she had won, but we weren't allowed to tell Jessica. So that was killing us for the whole time. And they wanted to announce it at an all-school assembly in front of the entire school community. So I had to create this fake assembly to get the whole student body down to the gym. And my teacher leader, Mrs. Roy, helped me a great deal, and so did Kathy Benetti, the communications coordinator. And we did a fake assembly. Luckily it was right next to Thanksgiving, so it was a Thanksgiving assembly, and we got the whole student body down there. Within a very short period of time, we were able to get Dr. Feaser, the mayor, Mr. Burt was there were some board members there, and all 4 Milford legislators attended the announcement as well. So we're all in the gym, and the director has this recorded announcement from Diane Smith, the news anchor, and she did a whole broadcast announcing Jessica, and it was a surprise to her, and her family was there at the same time, so it was quite an exciting day at JFK. It was really terrific, and something I'll always remember. It was amazing, and some of the board members were there to share it with us. So, as kid governor, Jessica will serve an important role over the next year, and she'll have the opportunity to move her platform forward. Jessica's already started her work, as Mrs. Stewart alluded to. She is currently the kid governor-elect. She's not quite the kid governor yet. But she did have an appearance at the radio station this past weekend at Choice Pets as for a collection drive to benefit animals, so she already started working towards her platform. She's also going to be saying the Pledge of Allegiance with the current kid governor at a meeting of the Connecticut electors to officially cast their electoral votes for the President of the United States next Monday. So those are her first 2 engagements. But some of the other things she has to look forward to. As Ms. Stewart said, she will have her own office at the old State House, and she's going to have staff to help her manage all this. Which I'm a little jealous of that. There's going to be an inauguration ceremony in Hartford next month, which I'm hoping a bunch of us will get to attend as well. Jessica is going to create more videos to share her platform across the state with students. She's going to maintain a blog about her community issue and any actions being taken to address it. She's going to meet and speak with students and adults across the state. Jessica is also going to participate in programs and events with the Connecticut Public Affairs Network. And she's going to do a summer library circuit where she goes around to all the libraries in the state of Connecticut over the summer and speaks about her platform. And those are just the things that are planned. So in addition to that, Jessica is going to be invited to participate in numerous events around the state. I'm very proud of Jessica and everyone at JFK who supported her along the way. And she's handled the barrage of attention like a pro. And I know she's going to go forth and do great things as a kid governor. So I just want to congratulate you again, Jessica. Good job.
You've heard a lot about her platform, and you may be wondering, well, what were the platforms of other kids? Here's the 6 other platforms of the videos. These are of the students who also were finalists. One was on homelessness, one on kindness, one on bus safety, one on senior pet adoption. The 5th one was on bullying prevention, and the 6th one on recycling. So you had very serious kinds of topics for the platforms, and Jessica's was selected. So it just sort of gives you an idea, again, of the caliber of her platform and her video, that again, a sufficient number of kids actually voted her in. So we're really proud. I also know that her family has been behind her 100%. The whole family couldn't be here, but her aunt, Mrs. Donna Kavesha, is here this evening, and we welcome you. It had to be so hard for you because you knew about this, but had to keep this all quiet till the morning of the announcement, which was fabulous that you could do that. So we're so excited, and so what I want to do at this point, Jessica, is I want to present you with a certificate for being 2017 Connecticut's Kid Governor. And then what I'd like to ask you to do is if you would go around and shake the hands of all of our board members and administrators that are here. Could you do that for us?
Congratulations.
Excellent job. Congratulations. Congratulations.
And I'd also like to ask Mrs. Stewart to come up and so that we can present her with a certificate because of your leadership and the fact that you really supported this whole program and had all of your kids participating in some fashion. We just think it's absolutely fabulous. So we want to congratulate you. And I wondered if you could turn around and let everybody see. This is do you want to explain the design of this?
Sure. So these are the 5 top animals that have been abused and still are being abused. It has, in Connecticut, it has a horse, a bird, a rabbit, a cat, and a dog. And they all have empty speech bubbles because they don't have a voice. And this says, helping those without a voice, CT Kid Governor with the JFK Hawks symbol. Because we want to show that JFK is helping the animals.
Great.
Very nice.
Thanks so much. And you all should go around.
Great job. Congratulations. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
So Jessica, you and your family and teachers are welcome to stay, but if you left, you would not be hurt. Other things to do.
Yeah, we're going to be here a while.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With the energy conservation update, and I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Riccitelli.
Thank you, Dr. Fieser, Mrs. Glenn, and members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you tonight to present the annual Energy Conservation Program update. As the board knows, energy conservation has been a part of our culture for the last 5+ years. We have a program in place that's been successful. We continue to build on it. As you're going to see tonight, we're really looking toward the future. So I know that the board's agenda is very full, so we're going to try and be as succinct as we possibly can. With me tonight is Jim Whitaker, our energy specialist, Pat Bradbury, our director of facilities. Also, as you're going to hear tonight, we're starting on a solar program, and we've selected a solar developer. It's Gavis Hill Development, LLC. And with us tonight is the president, Andy Kretsky, and project development head, Sam Wahab. So we'll be presenting, and if you have any questions, we'll certainly be available to answer them for you. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Jim Whitaker.
Follow the kid governor. Wow. Okay. Are you doing that or is this doing that? Okay. So this is a brief overview of the program history. That we started the program in December of 2010. And this, my part of the program is really based on behavioral change and cultural change. So that's what we're striving for. Primary goals, we're trying to create a positive educational environment. We're going to maintain and improve the safety and the comfort of our buildings, eliminate the energy waste, save money, which we're going to then hopefully use into other programs in our school system, and just overall achieve an energy conservation culture. There's a quick slide of the, I show this every year. This is a quick slide of the electric comparison. On the left-hand side is this past fiscal year from July of 2015 to June 2016. We expected to spend, as you can see, almost $7 million in electricity, and we were able to save just, in the end, we spent, I'm sorry, kilowatts, not money, kilowatts. And in the end, there it is, just under 5 million kilowatts. And then on the right-hand side is since the program inception in June of 2011 through this past June. Same idea with the natural gas. This past fiscal year, July 2015 through the 2016, the CCFs, the expected amount that we would have normally spent would have been a little over 600,000 CCFs for natural gas. And we did a little over, well, we did about 444,000 in the natural gas. And then again, on the right-hand side is since the program inception, from January 11 to June 2016. The environmental benefits of our program, you can see we've reduced the consumption by 10.5 million kilowatt hours of electricity, 933,000 CCFs of natural gas. And what that relates to in the greenhouse gas reductions is the 7,815 metric tons of CO2 less has been released into our atmosphere. It's like removing 1,620 automobiles for an entire year, or planting a little over 200,000 tree seedlings for 10 years. And our program has been averaging about a 26.1% reduction in energy consumption here at the Milford Public School System.
So I'm going to jump into the dollars here, and it just gives you an overview. This is a slide that we show each year, and we update it based on the previous years. Dollars that we've spent on electricity, natural gas, oil, and as you can see, it's the program began in the 2010-2011 year, and it was based upon the energy expenditures for 2009-2010, which is $2,283,282. So that's the purple column. That is what if we did nothing at all for the next 5 or 6 years, we would expect to spend a minimum of that amount of money. The cost would continue to rise, and presumably our consumption would continue to rise if we didn't do anything. And so our expected cost would be a minimum of the $2.2 million per year. And so that's what we would have expected to spend over the last 6 years. In the actual column, you can see what we actually spent year to year. And as you can see, from the inception of the program, we've saved over what we would have expected to spend, close to $3.4 million. Those are the gross numbers of what we saved, but there's a cost to the program. And as you can see here, we had to pay Synergistics for the 4 years of the contract. There's a salary, administrative salary, and we pay for an energy cap, which is the software for the program. And so you can see the totals each year, what we spent on the program, and a total over the 6 years of $1,455,000. And so if you take the net, the savings versus the cost of the program, since the beginning of the program, we've saved close to $2 million on utility costs. Extremely successful. Turn it back to Jim. Oh, go. Yeah.
So this is one of my favorite slides. This is Synergistics when they approached us. this was a chart that they actually gave us with the blue line saying, you know, this is what we believe the program's going to do over this amount of time. And as you can see with the red line, we've far exceeded what even they thought we were going to be able to do. So it's just that's just something I love to point that one out. There's a quick slide of the EPA awards and recognitions that we've received since the beginning of the program. The last one that we got was this past October 11th, where we were awarded these 14 of these plaques here that we're going to mount in our foyers of all our school buildings. The UI awarded us these plaques. And you see the picture there of myself and 5 of my closest friends. And then this is a quick slide just to say, you know, this whole program is about cultural change. And it would not work if it wasn't from the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, all the way down to our students, our cafeteria workers, our custodial staff, the teachers, the paras, the secretaries, our health departments. They all come together to create the cultural change which helps save all this money. And now, we want
Yep.
to have
Yeah, at this time,
Ms. Fadigan.
yeah, we just as an example, as Jim said, the program has been embraced by everybody, from the board supporting the program, all the way down to our buildings and our students. And a perfect example of that is at Penn Meadow School, where Mrs. Fadigan, the principal, has instituted a program of really getting the kids involved. And we have a real energy saver who has done a tremendous job at Penn, and I'll turn it over to Mrs. Fadigan to introduce her.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Jim and Jim, Board of Ed members. Mrs. Marshner, our teacher leader at Penn Meadow, is here with me tonight, and we are delighted to introduce you to Cherise Spelmetta, and she has an awesome platform too. She wants to save energy across our school system, and Cherise is a 3rd grade student. She's been doing this for 2 years at our school, 2nd and 3rd grade, and she goes at the end of the day, right before dismissal. And Cherise and I actually met today, and I said, maybe you want to tell everyone what you do, because she's a busy student at our school, and she could probably tell it best. Are you comfortable to tell everyone what you do? Okay, come on.
On November 23rd, I was recognized for outstanding contribution to our learning community as a student leader energy saver. What I do is I save energies by setting off monitors and computers in both CPM computer labs, and I did it for 2 years. I select students to join me to shut off the monitors and computers, and I'm organized and I get the job done right before dismissal. And I review energy reports cards with Ms. Fadigan, and she also emails cards to the teachers. And why my job is so important? Because I save money for our schools to spend more on materials to help us learn. It is also good for the environment to take care of our schools and Milford.
Excellent.
So, Mr. Whitaker reviews the report card for us in my inbox, and Cherise reviews the report card on our energy savings, and then we follow up with staff members if anyone needs a reminder, because Cherise is only responsible for the 2 computer labs. Everyone has to do their part in their own classrooms. When I asked Cherise why she thought this was most important, she said so we can make sure we're spending money on materials and other more important things to help us learn. And it's good for the environment too. So we're very proud of her, Mrs. Marshner and I, and everyone else at Penn Meadow, and we thank her for her continued work.
It's my understanding she also gets on people's cases when they don't turn off.
I would not mess with her.
So Cherise, will you come over? First of all, I'd like to meet you, because we haven't met before. And congratulations, that's terrific, and we're really delighted about you're contributing to the schools, because we're trying to get everybody, including all the adults, which sometimes they're the worst, not following through. So we want to present you also with a certificate for your efforts to save energy in the Milford Public Schools, and I'd like you also to walk, and would you introduce yourself to all the folks around the table, okay?
Well, thank you for your work.
Excellent job.
Keep up the good work. Great job. Great job.
Too, right?
Okay, and so at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Pat Bradbury, who's going to talk about the dollars that you allocated post-synergistics for energy initiative projects. Pat?
Our contract with Synergistics is over, so now the board last year gave us a roughly $125,000 to place, to do some upgrades at the schools. And so what this came down to is we were able to upgrade some exterior lighting to LED. We did some control work and some of the Johnson Control stuff in the larger areas to help ramp down some of our areas that don't go into an unoccupied state, but they just kind of lower their usage until a sensor will kick off on who's in that room. The two different measures, we did about 220, 230 lighting measures at Jonathan Law, and a little around 400 measures up at Foreign High School. These are the costs that we got through UI. These are projects that we put out with UI in a partnership with UI to get the incentives, and then our cost of the Milford Public Schools is there with about a 2.2-year payback on both of those. As we go through, there was a couple projects in the presentation I gave last month about when we renovate a room, we'll change it over to LED lighting. We're trying to get those changed because we can almost drop the consumption in half. We're also looking at Energy Star rated equipment, if we're changing a rooftop or doing any type of energy improvements or replacing any types of our ventilation equipment. The next big thing is we're replacing timers with the astronomical timers. It's just a big help. It helps take the human piece out of it.
Yep, that's it. So, where do we go from here? As I said, okay. So, what's on the horizon? It's solar. That's the next initiative that Milford Public Schools is taking on. I think we've demonstrated our commitment, a strong commitment, cultural commitment to energy conservation, and we need to take it to the next level. And we believe that solar energy is the way to go. It makes sense right now for Milford Public Schools because within the next 2 years, virtually all of our roofs will be completely new, which is the right time to install solar panels. There's also outstanding government and utility incentives which make it affordable. In fact, as we're going to talk about in the program, there's no upfront costs at all to Milford Public Schools. Milford Public Schools, or actually the city, will lease the roof space over 20 years. We will install the solar panels, and the units will be maintained by the solar developer. And then Milford Public Schools will purchase the energy that's generated from those solar panels at a reduced rate from what we're paying now. So no upfront costs and a savings that will just continue for the next 20 years. I should point out that the Board of Education cannot enter into a 20-year lease. The City of Milford owns the buildings, and so the approval process has to go to the city. So we're looking kind of for your buy-in to this program, but really the approval has to come from the Board of Aldermen. I've been in discussions with Mayor Blake, who's a big supporter of solar, and we'll be passing this request on to the Board of Aldermen probably in January or February. Okay, In starting this program, we issued an RFP, or a request for proposals, for a solar energy developer or a partner back in May. We received responses from 8 nationwide developers. We interviewed 5 firms. We narrowed that down to 2 finalists, interviewed them, and we ultimately selected Davis Hill Development, LLC, from Port Chester, New York. As I said, Andy Koretsky and Sam Wahab are here tonight. They can answer any questions that you may have. But the selection of Davis Hill was based upon the depth of their experience, their strong recommendations, their local partnership with All Electric Incorporated, which has done a considerable amount of work in our district and is very familiar with our buildings and the electrical infrastructure that already exists. We have a strong confidence in their ability, so that was a strong factor. And they also have the strong financial backing of the Connecticut Green Bank, which I'll talk about in a second. So the Connecticut Green Bank was established by the Connecticut General Assembly in 2011. It's backed by the state and it leverages public and private funds. Its goal is to spur investment in renewable energy initiatives. So the Green Bank is the financial piece of this, again, backed by the state of Connecticut. It's a 3-way partnership, as I talked about, Milford Public Schools and the City of Milford, who will be working with Davis Hill developers, who will install the equipment, and then the Connecticut Green Bank that will ultimately own the equipment for the next 20 years, and that's who we will purchase the energy from. So ZREX, the whole process began when we had to bid on ZREX. And ZREX stands for Zero Emissions Renewable Energy Credits. And again, it goes back to 2011 when the Connecticut General Assembly passed Public Act 11-80, which mandated the utilities to promote, fund, and expand renewable generation through the state. So the utilities provide funding based on a market-driven bidding process. We had to take part in that bidding process. 1 megawatt of energy produced by the amount of capacity we have on our roofs equals 1 ZREC. And we had to put in a bid for how much we were going to pay for those ZRECs. The project must meet eligibility requirements, and there's a whole bunch of criteria. There's a whole series of criteria depending on the size, the type of generation, whether it's solar, whether it's other types of renewable energy. But we were successful. We applied for 4 schools that are ready to go now. Those are Foreign High School and Jonathan Law, which fit into the large ZREC category, and Mathewson and East Shore. We were awarded those ZRECs, and now we have planned installations pending all of the approval process for the summer of 2017 on these 4 schools. The next 7 elementaries, other than Mathewson, which is in the first phase, those 7 elementaries and the academy will be the next 8 schools. We've applied for small ZRECs on those schools. We haven't heard yet. We believe that we have a good chance of receiving those ZRECs. And so if we do, our planned installations would be some of them the summer of 2017, some of them the summer of 2018, depending on which roofs have already been completed and which ones will be done this summer. The remaining 2 schools are West Shore and Harborside. Both of them, as you know, have construction projects coming up, and so we have not at this point applied for ZRECs on them, but we will in the coming year. And then we would plan installation for the summer of 2018 and the summer of 2019. And so our plan is to have solar installations on all 14 of our schools by 2019. Davis Hill will build the solar arrays, and the Connecticut Green Bank will own and operate the completed system once they're energized. Again, there's no cost for the solar construction to Milford Public Schools. Just some pictures. Davis Hill has done some preliminary site designs on the projects, and you can see the amount of roof space that will be utilized at each school. This is East Shore Middle School. It's just graphic. This is Mathewson, Jonathan Law, and Foreign. Foreign actually has to, there's sections of the roof at Foreign that still need to be done, and so there'll be initial installation and then one to follow it after that. So conclusions, when all of the 12 sites and potentially the 14 sites are done, Davis Hill will be able to develop solar arrays, and it's expected to, Davis Hill has projected that we will be able to generate at least, or offset at least half of the energy that's currently being consumed at those schools. Rough estimates at this point, because a lot more work has to be done, but in the first year, it's projected that we could save up to $95,000, and over the course of the 20-year lease agreement, we could save up to $3.4 million. Rough estimates at this point. So what's next? We need to seek the approval of the Board of Aldermen. As I said, that will take place in January or February. Then Davis Hill will complete final engineering and design. They'll assist the Connecticut Green Bank and the district in finalizing all of the agreements, submit documentation for permits, and then construct the projects on the schedule that I just spoke about. That's it. Questions on anything that we spoke about tonight?
Any questions from the board? Mrs. Federico?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple questions.
Sure.
So, the lease agreement is with the city. Now, is there any payment to the city for the lease, or is it just a discount in the energy?
There's no payment.
Okay.
The developer, the Connecticut Green Bank, will not pay the city a fee, but the benefit comes from the reduced cost of electricity.
Okay, okay. With the various bids that you received, or the various companies that were interested, were there different deals offered? I understand usually with solar, there's a variety of ways you could go.
Yeah, all of them had different ways of funding. They really what it came down to was their the recommendations that they had, their experience that they had, their ability to do the jobs. Not so much, we didn't really compare dollars to dollars, because it's just, it's anybody can come up with projections, but it was based upon their ability to do the job and to do it well.
Okay. Was there any one that was significantly different in terms of the dollars?
No.
No? Okay. Okay. And then I have a question for Mr. Bradbury. Just a rough idea, when we talk about the LED light conversion, would you say within our schools, are we at 50-50 LED and traditional, or less, or more?
We are really just, this was the first project this year that we started to hit some areas with LED.
Okay.
So we are, one of our next projects, we're going to look at the hallway lighting. We're probably going to go after that, because I have the longest run times. We made an upgrade a few years ago. We dropped down to the 27 watts, so we're almost there. Where the financing and the incentives from UI will help us.
Okay.
But we need the run time, so we're going to be looking at the longer run. That's why we did the gyms now, the cafeterias, the pool, the stuff that's on the most.
Okay.
So the hallways would probably be the next piece I go after in the next project.
Okay, so maybe around 25% or even less?
We'd probably be 25%. That's probably where we're at right now, because we haven't touched any classrooms.
Okay.
Except the ones that I've redone this summer.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
Dr. Gregory?
Jim, you mentioned that part of the decision-making was the prior relationship with the all-electric company.
Mm-hmm.
Could you speak to how that swayed your opinions?
Well, we're very familiar with All Electric. They've done a lot of work in our school system already. They're extremely reliable. Their pricing is outstanding. They've won bids that we've put out before. We have an outstanding relationship with them, and we know that their work is good. We know that they're familiar with our buildings. They've worked on our buildings before, and we just thought with the, and Pat, you can fill in here, but with Davis Hill's financial stability, with their past experience, and with the partnership with All Electric, it just seemed to us to be a perfect fit for Milford.
They're a large union outfit that bids on a lot of large work, but they can do our larger projects for us. And we've had a lot of contractors in here, and the response I get, I can call them now and they'll be in my office in 10 minutes. I get the service, I don't have to look over their shoulder. I'm very confident in the work that they're gonna produce for us. That was a big part of it for me.
Other questions? So I just had one question on the photos that you showed us, the designs. So I do not know a whole lot about solar. All the blue are the solar, it looks to me like the majority of the roof structures will be covered with solar panels.
Correct.
So does that impede any work that needs to go on, or Mr. Whitaker's got to go up on the roof and check out the fans and stuff?
No, they'll have full access to all the mechanical equipment. They won't cover the entire roof, but they'll have to have walkways and pathways to get to any area that we need to service.
How about in the winter when the snow needs to be taken off the roof?
I asked those questions too.
Okay.
The snow actually, from what I was told, and Andy and
Does
Sam.
it slide off?
Yeah, it actually, it's warmer and actually melts quicker.
Okay.
If anybody has solar on your house now, that's.
I don't, so.
Well, I do, and where the panels are, comes right off.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the approval of plan specifications, estimates, the expansion and alteration project at West Shore Middle School. This is phase 2 of phase 2. So I'm again going to turn this over to Mr. Riccitelli.
Thanks, Dr. Fieser. As the board is very well aware of the West Shore Middle School project that is already been out to bid, as Ms. Federico talked about. We're just about ready. The mayor is proposing bond authorization for December 19th to the Board of Finance and then to the Board of Aldermen in early January. So this project is moving along. We were here before you probably 6 to 8 months ago. Yep. With the plan specifications and estimates for phase 1, which is all of the construction. Phase 2 is very small. It's the furniture, fixtures, equipment, and technology, basically, for the project that was broken off into phase 2. So this is the plans, specifications, and estimates for that piece of the project. And this will be the final piece, which will allow us to then apply to the state for state reimbursement. And Mr. Silver from Silver Petroselli, as you well know, is here to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions from the board?
I have one.
Mr. Hagedorn.
Under where it says the music storage, $26,000, what does that entail for storage?
I'm Bill Silver with Silver Petroselli Architects and Engineers. The storage includes lockable storage for musical instruments, storage cubbies for the students' equipment. It pretty much is comparable to the storage that was put in over at East Shore 2 years ago. And that occupies a very large storage room between choir and band. It pretty much takes care of all their instruments. And it's something that we kind of customized with the music teachers at West Shore in terms of selecting the proper equipment.
Other questions? Okay, seeing none.
We need
Anything else?
motion.
Just need the motion? Okay, Mr. Bias, there's a motion for this?
Well, I make a motion that the Milford Board of Education approves the plans,
specifications and estimates for Phase 2 of 2, furniture, fixtures, equipment, and technology for the expansion and alteration project at West Shore Middle School, state project number TMP 084JLGB.
Second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Silver. The next item on the agenda is the academic calendar. This is for first read. And as you know, from when Mr. Wiskenden spoke with you, maybe a month ago, trying to remember, we have to bring forward the calendar, much of which is grounded in the regional calendar, which is mandated by the state. So the current calendar is pretty much mirrors last year's in the sense that, there's we have the 2 opening days, one of which is mandated and one of which is our convocation day, is the second day that we choose to add at the beginning of the year. And then you see, where the vacation days are the same, they're common for all of the regional schools, but where some of the differences are, we are in school, for example, we are out of school, for example, on September, I believe it's the 21st, which is Rosh Hashanah. We are in school on Columbus Day. We are in school on Veterans Day. These are days that we've chosen, and the board supported us either being out or in on these particular days. So you will see everything laid out here. The one piece that's missing is that we don't have the second semester parent conferences listed. And the reason that we don't do that, what started to emerge from our principals recently is a desire to, could we take a look at these and look to see, do we need to have them all on the same dates? Because actually the elementaries would like to have them earlier than in April, which is when or March is when they've been scheduled, and they'd like to pull them back because they feel it would be more beneficial. Meanwhile, the high school people like it where it is. The middle school would like to pull it back as well. So rather than trying to figure out, okay, wait a second, what are we going to do? We just thought, well, let's just pull those off right now. We'll discuss those and we can bring those back. It's not, you don't have to, it's not dependent upon your voting on the calendar itself, because those are the conference dates. And so we would certainly bring those back to you. But other than that, this is what the calendar would be for next year. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions? Mr. Jagodzinski?
Yeah, I had a couple questions. The placement of the professional learning dates occur in the middle of the week. Wouldn't it make more sense to have them on Monday or Friday so that the kids wouldn't have a breakup in the middle of the week?
You're talking about, for example, we only have the one full day. Are you talking about the full day?
The Wednesday days, the
full
6
days.
days.
So I believe the only date we have full during the year is the date in, is it in March?
March 8th.
March 8th. We chose not to put it on a Monday or Friday because of absenteeism, to be perfectly honest with you. And so we chose a day during the week as opposed to Monday or Friday.
And the May date, which is the 23rd, I was wondering whether it might not be better to make it, say, the 30th. I'm wondering if kids don't really check out academically after Memorial Day, when we end the school year so early in June.
So that's an early dismissal day. That's not a full day.
Right.
And do you want to speak to that, Mr. Burke? Because I know you and I, as a committee, determine those days.
Correct, yes. We were looking at trying to balance out the number of days and disruptions to the week, and we are also cognizant of the fact that that exams will begin if we hold on to this schedule. The following week, teachers at the high school in particular would want to ensure that they're seeing their students that week prior to the start of exams. Again, you can see the placement all these days. We did spend a long time discussing the optimal placement to decrease the disruptions while still providing those professional development opportunities for the staff. Those are good.
I think
good
also too,
questions.
the AP exams will have been completed, which are earlier in May.
Right.
The Smarter Balance is earlier in, is that in April or in May?
The Smarter Balance window this year starts right about at the end of March, the 26th, I believe, and goes through to the end of that week in May, the 25th. I think in May, in some cases, they see permissible to go into the end of May, but really for us, it would be the 25th.
So we were working around that as well. And we're also kind of always seeing kind of like staggering them across the basically 9 months.
Right.
You know.
Okay. My main concern is the number of half-days that we have. This year, we're going to have, I guess, 16, and that is almost equivalent to losing 6 full days of study or class time. And, that's a huge price to pay. And I'm wondering if we can't start to begin cutting back on some of these half-days.
So what I would say to you is 6 of the half-days are specific for professional development. I know that this was a question that was raised last year, I think, by board members. So the reality is that by contract right now, teachers, we can only require teachers to stay after school for a meeting 4 times in a month.
Right.
And those are all designated. So one is a faculty meeting, one is for like grade level or departmental, one is for their professional learning communities, PLCs, and then the 4th one is for professional development. And so I don't know how many years those 6 days have been in place, that certainly before I came. But I know that last year we were asked to do a kind of a survey of the regional area, which we did. And actually we were lower than a number of other districts, the highest being, I think, Ensodia, which has 15, just for professional learning. So to be honest with you, if we were to eliminate those, it would be a huge loss. What we also try to do is not pull, we're actually, quite frankly, in the last few years, reducing the number of times that teachers are being pulled out of classes and trying to use those early release days to do some of that professional learning. That's, whether it's a new curriculum that's coming in, or it's a mandated piece from the state that we have to do some, professional development with teachers, and using those days for it, again, instead of pulling people out. Some of the other days, so your conferences, that takes up 4, I believe.
That takes up 6 in the grade schools.
Oh, in the elementaries.
Can't we cut that back to 2?
That's a good question. I think we'd have to look. I don't know if that's contractual. I don't remember that with respect to the conferences. But I think part of the, and again, it's been in place. I think some of it is to enable teachers to have sufficient time with parents, or the reverse, to enable parents to at least feel like they've had some sufficient time to talk with the parent. So if you have at an elementary level, okay, if you have 20 students, it doesn't sound like a whole lot, but if you're sitting and maybe you're spending 20 minutes to a half hour, there's only so many that you can do. At the elementary level, they actually spend a fair amount of time, as opposed to the high schools is much shorter, I think.
Can we cut back in the high schools and not have 3 days in the high schools? Can we cut back in the middle schools?
I believe at the high school it's only 2.
There's only 2.
It's only 2? Oh, right, yeah.
So I hear what you're saying. I think it's, we actually, I believe, had fewer, we only had parent conferences in the fall. And parents have asked us, because they just didn't feel it was sufficient.
Right.
And then the law changed, which allowed us to be able to have so many evenings where we didn't have to pay people. So we added, for example, the evening in the springtime as one of the parent pieces.
Right.
Again, I'd have to go back and find out some of that history, but we were really restricted before, and so we were now given some flexibility under the law. But I know also some of this is that working with the union, the union, and understandably so, wants consistency across the levels, elementary, middle, and high, with respect to the amount of, pretty much the amount of days and evenings that would be required of teachers.
Right. To go back to the professional learning, we have the full-day learning sessions, we have the 6 half-day learning sessions, plus monthly we have a professional development session after school.
We have a faculty meeting after school.
Right.
And so there may be some professional, but that's like an hour. I mean, it's not an early release. It begins at the end of the day.
Right.
So you have, you're trying to do maybe some business, but also maybe some professional learning for staff. That's once a month.
Right.
That's able to be used.
I mean, it seems like a very large amount of time for professional learning.
Well, if I may.
Go right ahead.
It seems like that, it does, I would agree with that, but we know that the most significant factor that improves teacher instruction is high-quality professional development. If you're in your classroom by yourself doing the same thing day after day, it's unlikely that you're going to improve. In addition, we have a number of initiatives as well as new academic standards coming our direction. We have the new social studies and science standards that come our way. We have our district goals, which require new assessments to ensure that we're measuring those goals. A lot of these things need to be developed and produced and researched and discussed and then implemented. Once they're implemented, we have to review how they were implemented, make adjustments, revisions, etc. And we try to do a bulk of that in the summer, but it's just not always the best time. We can't get everybody involved. We can't obviously pay everyone in the summer to come in for a week at a time to do these things. So during the year, these times are, I can tell you, they're grabbed for by principals and instructional supervisors. There's always a debate of who gets what when, because there's so many different pieces going on that we're continuously seeking to improve. And these times, these larger chunk of times that are absolutely necessary. Having been in the instructional supervisor role, those after-school hour-long meetings are tough to generate. I'm not at my greatest capacity right now at 8:30 at night or whatever. So, if you caught me 8:30 this morning, a little bit better. But it is those longer times that we would be interested in, and I think we're a greater advantage. We are cognizant of the fact, and we are being very careful to say that we have this much time in the calendar. Let's reduce the number of times that teachers would actually be out of the classroom to do any of these activities. So it's important for me personally to keep these times, because I'm giving mandates to everybody saying reduce the number of times we're using substitutes in the classroom.
The other thing that I would just add, I've been around for a while, the number of mandates from the state with respect to professional development that we have to do has just increased exponentially. So just let me give you, I just off the top of my head, I want to give you the names of about 10 things that we have to train teachers in annually. Child assault, this is the new piece now that's come out. Blood pathogens, school safety, and that's about an hour of training. Child abuse, suicide, child find, which is, a whole process in terms of determining whether or not a student might have to be referred for special education. IEP, so an individual education plan. If I'm a teacher with an individual education plan, which many of our teachers are teaching students who may be special ed students, what do I do with this IEP? 504, which is another designation, under the Americans with Disabilities Act. And, there are a number of students, and in fact, it's increased because of the changes in the law, the number of students who are classified as 504. We have to do training every single year. Or some of it's refresher training. There's also the piece on physical restraint. There's also kind of refreshing people on certain policies of the Board of Ed. All of that has to be done. The principals, the feedback that we're getting is they feel like they're losing first of all, a major portion of their professional learning piece in August, because it's the start of the year. Then this year, we made them do the September meeting, and it was all the mandated piece. So they didn't really get into even like the kind of professional learning that they wanted to do in their buildings until the first, whatever it was, the next professional learning day. It's exasperating what is happening. We've created some videos so that, and then teachers have to sign off that they've watched the video, but you can't, you can't say, here's a dozen videos, go and watch them. That's just not the best. So that's another piece that we're wrestling with, and the mandates continue. That's all I can say to you, so.
Just for a point of reference to when Milford first started with the early release Wednesdays, actually I think they tried doing late start Wednesdays, and it was 10 a year. And that was about 15 years ago, I think, and it was at some point reduced to 6, and they went to the early release versus the late start. So it is fewer than what it used to be. Ms. Federico?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I don't remember exactly when it came out, but when I first heard that there were going to be, I think it was a half day every month, for the teachers to get together, it was kind of like, wow, that's a lot. That's not something that we had or that was needed when I was in school. But I have to say, in the time I've been on the board, I've seen so many initiatives that you folks have implemented, and I think you've indicated to us time and time again that you need that professional development time to make those advancements. And we had someone in here not that long ago who was talking about what they had done, and they said without those half days, it never would have been possible, to get everyone together in the same building. So I support the professional development time. And one area where I might ask about is on the conferences. I also support having the 2 conferences a year. I think that that's great. I don't know if there's any room, and I'm sure it's a contractual issue, but I don't know if there's any room to do more evening and less daytime conferences. I know that may be difficult, but I also know as a parent that those evening time slots fill up really fast. So maybe there is any room, in the half days there. That's one place that I would look at.
We could look at that. We certainly can.
And then I have 2 other questions on the calendar itself. Well, one was about the shift in the timing for the testing window. Can you just speak to that piece a little bit more?
Yes, this was a decision made late last school year, working with, there's the CAPS is the superintendent's network in the state, and they have the Assessment and Accountability Subcommittee working closely with the State Department of Education, also working with other educational groups in the state. And specifically, the reason for pushing the window back, one was weather. But the second really was that I think some of this came through, especially in our 5th grade math results, that there was much more content that was covered from the second week of March through the end of May, and that students hadn't even been exposed to that kind of content. So they decided that really they needed to shift the windows further into the later part of the year. Also, they shortened the window because they felt that they created equity across the state, and feedback from the different districts was that we can get it done in a shortened window, and then you would see more equitable results between districts, so that you didn't have 10 weeks or 12 weeks difference between 2 districts testing their population.
Okay, so roughly when was the old window versus the new window?
March 1st.
Beginning of March.
March 1st versus, what is it now?
It's, yeah, end of March.
March 1st versus end of March, okay.
Like the 26th or something like that?
I believe it is the last week, the 26th.
And that's for the SBAC?
This is for all state testing now.
All state, okay.
Including SAT, CAPT, CMT Science, and SBA.
Okay. So everything is in what, is it like a 1-week window?
No,
It's
you have
March through end of May.
You have a window until you can choose within that window when to assess your kids, for example, on Smarter Balance. I think the one difference is the SAT, I think that date is declared because that's by
Correct.
the college board.
Okay.
I don't remember when that is, but that's a college board
I
date.
believe it is April
But,
4th.
we can turn around and say, okay, we're going to have, the elementaries, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, we're going to assess them this week or over these 2 weeks, and another district could choose another 2 weeks, but it's all within that window that's defined by the state.
Okay, so now the window starts at the end of March?
Correct.
And ends at the end of May?
Correct.
Okay. So we have to choose when we're going to actually administer our testing? Somewhere in?
Correct.
Between April and May,
Right.
Yes.
basically? Okay.
The
All
good
right.
thing is that with the high school, because the date is in April, it doesn't interfere at all with the AP exams, which that was a nightmare the first year that the Smarter Balance was being given.
Okay.
So that's a good thing.
Okay, all right. One more comment. I looked at last year's calendar in comparison to this one. Visually, the new calendar was just a little confusing to me. And there were two things. One was last year, I think we had started shading in the professional learning days,
Okay.
just so it stands out a little bit more that those are days off. And then the okay, great. And then the second thing is, for me, the box around the vacation days and also a box around the half days, I just found that really hard to see. I think last year we didn't have a box around the days off. They were just shaded.
Sure.
Any other questions? Yes, Ms. Casey? Yes, Ms. Casey.
Just to comment on the professional learning, I think that all those days are crucial to faculty and staff, and it's time well spent, whether it's a faculty meeting or a PLC, or you're talking about curriculum, or you're talking with your grade partner about strategies. There's just not a whole lot of time during the day to do that, so I think that time is really important to all the teachers and staff. And as well as the conferences, I think that that is also crucial to have as many as we can have during the year, because that communication piece is so important.
Mr. Wiskieman?
You mentioned evening sessions of certain occasions. Did I hear that correctly? Conference. How many, are these are part of the regular duties of those who attend these conferences?
The teachers?
I mean, they're folded in with, they're not paid extra for evening work on those particular occasions. How many?
No, but I believe under the contract, they're early released if they come back in the evening.
Released, but,
So they
okay.
get, yeah, that's not in every district, but that's the way it is here.
Okay. I just wanted to try to get an understanding, how many times or hours outside of the regular school day are teachers required to spend at school without compensation other than, within the contract terms? Is that 1 day, 2 days, 10 days? How many days do you know?
We'd have to check that. There's a new law that just came through, I want to say 2 years ago, that dictates how many
The maximum
number of days, and we don't have to compensate. So for example, parent conference, if there's 2 nights for parent conferences, we don't have to compensate the teachers for that.
Okay.
And I believe there may be, for example, another night where, a school might say, tonight is our open house, and so all teachers have to be present for open house, and we wouldn't have to compensate. But let's, I'll double check on that.
And that is within the contract itself. I mean, it's contractually embedded.
That's within the law.
Within the law, okay. So
Okay.
it doesn't have to be part of the contract per se, because it's legally binding.
Correct. So
All right.
we'll get that to you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we're, because, I mean, we have a lot of times where teachers are doing things that are not in the classroom, and I just wanted to kind of full understanding of how much time they're also spending, in addition, outside of the classroom, evenings and weekends or whatever.
Right. I will say that our teachers are really good. There's,
I
a
believe
substantial
that,
number
too.
of teachers are here in the
you know,
evening
I'm
for different
absolutely
things that are going on,
convinced.
workshops.
I understand, but I
parents, or
just
whatever
wanted
it
to
may
try
be.
to get a sense of balance about,
Sure.
you know, how much of a burden this is in terms of the total annual effort being made. Okay, thank you. No other comments.
So just to circle back around to the calendar, just to clarify, teacher conference days, however, if they're an evening session, it's still an early dismissal, correct?
And I believe that's in the contract, the teacher's contract.
Right, okay.
I don't think it's past precedent at this point. We'll double
We'll
check
look.
that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Any other comments on the calendar? Because this will come back for a
May I just make one more comment? Just going back to the issue of the professional learning days, the release. So one of the other issues, I just had a principal, an elementary principal mentioned this today. So there's just the competing agendas. So for example, the calendar was established. We established a whole calendar so that everybody knows which is a building day, which is, for release time, which ones might it be. Another thing that we have to do every year is we have to reintroduce teachers on teacher evaluation. Are there any changes to teacher evaluation? And there were 2 or 3 mandates that came down from the state relative to special education. So Carol Swift, rightfully so, who could not be here this evening, there's a bug going around. 3 of our administrators were out today. So anyways, had to pull all of her special ed folks. So what we heard this morning from one of the principals was, I wanted to have my whole faculty, and for the first 2 months of school, I didn't have my whole faculty because they had to be pulled, all the special ed people had to be pulled to go through these particular trainings because of new laws that had come through. So that's another piece that happens, and so, again, Carol would be pulling all those folks out of their roles, and then there's the whole issue of, well, who's kind of like minding the store with respect to all of those, because we would never get enough substitutes. Or you pull them out of the, those one of those early release days, but then again, here's the principal who was expecting to do such and such a thing and cannot, and is missing a percentage of his or her teachers. So that's another piece that happens again and again. The supervisors, Brian Scott, who was here, or any of the other supervisors, I mean, I think they get one time a month to meet with people in their area. Well, if you have K through 12 social studies teachers, and you have 6 times a year to kind of pull them together, how do you do that? You don't pull all K-12. You have somebody maybe working with the elementary, or you kind of, the elementary will be doing such and such, and meanwhile you're working with the middle and the high, or whatever it may be. It's tough. It's because there's just so many hours in a day and lots of work to do. I'll stop.
All right, thank you, Dr. Fieser. So this will come back for a second reading next month. If you'll give me the Liberty Board, I want to ask, does anybody have a request to remove anything off the consent agenda? We have a gentleman here who is here to answer any questions that might come up on consent agenda items. So we're going to let him leave if nobody had asked to have if nobody was going to ask to have something removed from the consent agenda tonight. Nobody? No. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to number 5, policies, Dr. Fieser.
Right. So,
yes, Mr. Whiskeyman.
Could we take a very brief break, please?
5-minute recess?
Yes, please.
Does anybody else need a recess? Do you need to, you can.
I can go myself.
You can go on your own.
So we're now going to do the policies. These are the 7, I believe it is, 8 policies that we had brought forward last month for consideration. And 4 of them you took a look at and it basically said that you were okay with them as presented, which were the policies on bus contact, vandalism, married/pregnant students, and the use of breath testing devices. You did ask for just kind of clean up a little bit, Nick, on some awkward language on the married/pregnant students. But you indicated that for all intents and purposes, they were okay as they were to move forward. So I don't know, Mrs. Glennon, if you want to take those up
Yep,
first.
Mr. Bias has a motion, I think, right?
Yes, I do. Okay. Make a motion that the Milford Board of Education approves this following students' policies as presented. Number 1 is P 5131.1. Number 2 is P 5131.5. Number 3 is P 5134, and number 4, P 5145.124, use of breath testing devices.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
The next three policies, beginning with off-school grounds misconduct, there were questions that were raised by board members on each of these three policies, and several of them, some of the questions had legal ramifications, so I want you to know that we touched base with our attorneys on all three of these. So I'm going to go through, beginning with the off-school grounds misconduct and the questions that were raised and the responses that we received from the attorneys. So on this first policy, the question that was raised had to do with the third paragraph down. This is in red, number 4, which is one of the criteria for conduct which is considered seriously disruptive of the educational process. A question was raised around including alcohol in that particular statement, whether the conduct involved the use of alcohol and why did we include that. And I had indicated because that would be something that might be common in terms of kids getting themselves in trouble with, etc. So we asked the attorney, and the response was, you should keep the word alcohol in. I believe your policy should mirror the statute at a minimum, and alcohol is in the language of, and she quoted the state statute. She also indicated that as far as she would consider, you may want to add drugs as a factor as well. So alcohol and drugs is what the recommendation was. So I took the liberty of adding drugs based upon that consideration. So that's the first question on that policy. And the second one, which is on page 2, the first major paragraph there that begins, for example, the question that was raised is, should the word reasonable be replaced by the word strong? And the attorney basically said no. She preferred reasonable for this, and her rationale was it gives the district more flexibility, plus we are more apt to find case law that would flesh out what it means to be reasonable than it would by saying what it means to be strong. So we put reasonable back in as the term. So those were the two questions that you raised, that you asked us to pursue. I don't know if there's other questions that people
I think there were 2 housekeeping items on this one, the ORs on the list, the 1, 2, 3 on the first page, and the 2, 3, 4, 5, whether, I think the word or isn't necessary, somebody had asked about.
Like number 4? Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, number 2 at the bottom of page 1 of 3, the safety of the school property, or, do we need that, or? No. I think a couple of people had suggested that be taken out. Unless it's, for some reason, I don't think it needs to be there.
And then also on page 2, number 4.
Because it's a sentence?
Yeah, there's colon, and then you have your enumerated list that's a part of that sentence, which is why it ends with a period at the end of the enumerated list.
Okey doke, so grammatically it's correct, all right. Never mind. All right, any questions on what Dr. Fieser discussed? I think that covers the concerns from last month. No questions? All right, Mr. Bias?
Okay, make a motion that the Milford Board of Education approves the off-school grounds misconduct policy, P P 5131.8 as presented with the recommended changes.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
So we move on to policy 5131.21, which is threats or acts of violence. And the primary question that was posed had to do with why Board of Education members were not included in this opening statement about threats. And you should feel good because the attorney basically said you are included whether or not it's in writing as members of the Board of Education. But she then said if you want to include it, she provided language specific to what would be included, which is why the changes in green here. That's the language that came forward from the attorney.
Questions? Needs everybody's approval? Okay, Mr. Bias?
Okay, I make a motion that the Milford Board of Education approves the threats or acts of violence policy, P 5131.21, as presented with the recommended changes.
I'm sorry, second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
So the next is policy 5144 on discipline. And there were two areas of question. The first one was on the first page. And it really centered on, does physical restraint include the discipline policy the way it was written here? And what we had indicated that physical restraint is really very narrowly defined, and it's specific to it's really specific to our special education population, when you might use physical restraint in the way it's defined by the state. So the attorneys, what she said was there should be two distinct policies. You have your physical restraint policy, and then you have another discipline policy. So that's just in response to that particular question. The second question is actually there were three questions on this. The second question had to do with, if you remember, in the original policy was a whole piece in here on a teacher or other person entrusted with the care and supervision of a student for school purposes may use reasonable physical force upon such student, and then it gave the criteria to protect him or herself, to obtain possession of a dangerous weapon, to protect property, to restrain or remove a student. And the question that was raised was, why was this piece taken out of it? And what the response is that the language is okay, but it does not belong necessarily in this policy. She said the language you quote is a restatement of Connecticut's statutory law regarding legally permissible use of force. So it's under the law, teachers can do this. She said that she believes that if you're going to include that language, it would not be included in this policy, it would be included in another policy. And basically, either we would find another policy to put it in, or we would create the policy. Actually, what I did was, she said, in policy such and such, what if the policy that she quoted we don't have? So my suggestion going forward is that we would create a new policy that would have that language in it and bring that forward to you, and leave this policy as is. Because she said your piece on teacher, it doesn't belong in here per se. But it is covered under the law, so it should be somewhere, is basically what she said. And the other question that was asked, if I understood correctly, had to do with the issue of progressive discipline. This was in the third paragraph on page 1. The Board of Education supports the utilization of a progressive discipline approach that utilizes a continuum of interventions, etc. And basically, what the attorney said is that you would find yourself in a lot of trouble if you failed to follow a progressive discipline model. And so it occurred to me that maybe there's some misunderstanding of what do we mean by progressive discipline. Actually, we use the term also with staff. So, you know, if a student, you know, cuts class first time, maybe the student gets a warning, the second time, maybe the student has a detention, the third time, maybe they have a Saturday detention, if we had Saturday detentions. I mean, that's the notion of progressive, you know, and then, you know, the fourth time, you know, made more serious, where, you know, the student is, you know, the parents are called in, they sit down with the parents, the student cannot leave at the end of the day. I mean, there's different, that's the notion of progressive. You know, a similar thing may be used, as I said, with respect to staff, where, you know, you have a warning, and then maybe there's a formal letter that goes into the personnel file. I mean, that's the notion of progressive. So what is in here is basically what should be in here. It's suggesting that the philosophy is that you don't just say all kids being equal. You know, if somebody has done something 5 times and somebody's doing it for the first time, they all get the same sanction. I mean, unless it's something that's really, really egregious, and there's some things under the law where, for example, it's mandated expulsion. But normally it's looking at, well, where is the student? I can remember how many years ago when I was an assistant principal, many, many, many years ago, there was a demerit system. You know, I'd have a student come in and say, okay, 6 times over you received demerits for this. You know, so it's like, how many times do you do it? 20 times you get demerits for the same thing, or did you just start to ratchet it up kind of thing?
Any questions on this second reading? All right, seeing none, Mr. Bias?
I make a motion that the Milford Board of Education approves the discipline policy P 5144 as presented with the recommended changes.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
The next agenda item is actually, we're bringing back the transportation policy for a minor revision in language, as some confusion surfaced this year that had never ever happened before in language that's been in the policy for ages. But it created some confusion this year. And so we just thought, you know what, we better make sure that we clarify this. So, Mr. Ricciatelli, did you want to speak to this?
Sure, just very briefly. We consider this to be minor, but we think it would make our regulation or our policy more explicit and clarify what our responsibilities are under the law and what the students' rights are under the law for student transportation for special education students. And so you can see what language was crossed out and what we're actually asking to replace it with. The old item A3 was really the part that was troublesome, where it says a student is eligible for transportation if, and the student is physically handicapped, is a special education student. We need it to be more clear as to what special education students and when is transportation required and when is it not. And so you have the language before you. Students under the law that have an IEP, and that IEP indicates that he or she needs special education transportation as determined by the PPT team, would be provided transportation. A student who has a 504 plan under the Rehabilitation Act of 73 that indicates that he or she requires transportation due to his or her disability as determined by the 504 team. And then it goes on, students who have a health or physical disability and then get a doctor's note on a prescribed form. It better clarifies what our responsibilities are under the law and what the students' rights are under the law.
And you will note that on number 3, it's actually not our decision with respect to a student with health or physical disability. It's actually the health department makes that decision. So a doctor's notes goes to the nurse then turns that over to the health department, and the health department, based upon their assessment, would say to us, yes, this student needs transportation, or no, it does not. And that wasn't in the policy at all as to the role of the health department. So that's really what the reason bringing forth the policy was, just to make it clearer to make sure that we were in sync with the law and also even in sync with the practices in the Milford Public Schools and in the city of Milford.
Any questions? Ms. Federico?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one brief question for clarification. The very first sentence says, students will be eligible for special education transportation. So what does that mean? Could that be regular transportation?
It could be.
Okay.
It depends on what their IEP or their 504 plan says. If they need, obviously if they need a bus that has a handicap lift, we have to provide that type of bus. So it's according to student need.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a quick comment.
Yes.
I want to appreciate that the new text is consistently person first. And the old text was inconsistent with that, so I just want to appreciate that language.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, then this moves forward for second reading at the next meeting.
Thank you.
And then we have one more policy that we're bringing forward. This is on homeless students, and I can speak to it somewhat. To be honest with you, Ms. Swift is our homeless liaison, so she has far greater expertise. But just so you know, this is a mandated policy by law. The McKinney-Vento Education Act, this is for homeless children and has been around since 1987. There's been many, many changes to the law in the last, 30 years at this point, right? So what this policy does is it's really brought us up to speed with respect to the law itself. And what we did is that we put together a policy. These were recommended by CABE. They gave us 2 or 3 samples to work with, where the policy is a general statement about the fact that what the federal definition is, that the board is saying homeless students will be provided services comparable to the district. Of course, again, this is mandated by law. And that the superintendent will appoint a liaison for homeless children, that's the director of pupil services, as assigned, and also provide a detailed administrative regulation. So we provided you the regulation because the regulation then really defines everything that the law says. And it's very detailed and very complex in as far as for some kids, are they homeless or are they not? Just even looking at the definition of homeless, it's become much broader, and I think it's become broader because the manifestation of homeless children is in many different forms than what we used to think of as homeless, folks that are homeless. So you see, A through G, these are all definitions of what homeless is. And then it goes on to talk about, enrollment, the obligation of the district, the fact that regardless of what a student presents him or herself with respect to transcripts or no transcripts, immunizations or no immunizations, health records or no health records, we take the student in immediately if the child is homeless, and then go from there. And then what our obligations are. An appeal procedure, if a student we don't identify as homeless can appeal that piece. The educational services, there can be absolutely no discrimination, which clearly we would not participate in that, but I'm sure there's been cases of it in the past, not necessarily here. And then all the duties with the local liaison. It's a law that's become, as I said, far more complex, and lots and lots of reporting, and again, defining who's homeless. And oftentimes, a number of children that might be placed in the district would be classified as homeless, maybe by DCF, and then there's specific things that get kicked into place. So this is a pretty much boilerplate language, and it's under the law. So We did not have a formal policy in place here on homeless. Having said that, I do know that we were following the law. I can tell you that straight out, because I don't know how many conversations I had with Sue Keller, former special ed director, over the years, the last few years, around kids who were homeless and steps that we were taking as a result of this situation, et cetera. So we were following it. We were supposed to have a policy. We didn't, but now we will going forward.
Questions? Mr. Jagodzinski?
Do you know how many homeless students there are currently?
I don't, but we can certainly give you that information.
Mr. Whiskeyman?
I noticed that they have a definition of unaccompanied youth who's homeless. Wouldn't we here in Connecticut have to involve the DCF if we happen to run across a child who had no adult supervision at all, they were unaccompanied and homeless, in order to establish some guardianship for the child? Because the board couldn't take guardianship of a child. That'd be outside of a jurisdiction.
I think for the vast majority of the kids, that may be the case, but for example, if a student is 17 years of age, and living in a car, for example,
they're a student, but they're also technically an adult in the terms of legally handling this student.
Right, I mean, we certainly, I'm sure, would notify DCF, but DCF may very well say to us.
I guess I was thinking of a little kid right now.
Oh, absolutely, we would, absolutely, positively, we would.
Yeah, but, oh yeah, I forgot, yeah, we do have students that, even up to the age of what, 21? In some circumstances,
students,
yeah. Okay.
Any other questions? Ms. Federico?
Thank you, Madam Chair. On page 2 of the policy, in item, I think it's E. The last sentence there, when the child or youth.
Are you looking at the regulation?
I'm sorry, the regulations. Okay. Page 2 of the regulation, in item E. When the child or youth completes the final grade served by the school of origin, it also includes designated receiving school at the next level for all feeder schools. So is that our language or theirs?
It's their language,
Okay.
and how I interpret that to mean is, so a child, finishes at Orchard Hills, and we make the decision to say, well, you're not going on to East Shore, we're gonna move you to such and such.
Okay,
Cannot do that.
okay. Okay, but even though we don't have direct feeder schools, they would go somewhere that the students in that school are going?
Correct. We wouldn't treat them any differently than we would any other child, is what this is saying.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, then this will move forward for a second reading next month.
The next item on the agenda is the Board of Education meeting schedule for the year 2017. And amazingly, all the dates are on Mondays. And do we know for sure that the meetings are going to end at 9 o'clock, Mrs. Griffin?
Time to go. Hustle it up. You have always put the time.
I think that's been just always listed that way, is that right?
Mr. Whiskeyman?
I know Monday, April 17th, as a Monday meeting.
Yeah, that's a school vacation that month.
Yes, is there, the 10th?
The 10th is school vacation week,
Oh,
right,
okay,
this
so we
year?
push it back a week then?
Yeah.
So it's the
Yeah, I
third
had that
week.
noted,
Okay.
right? Yeah.
Yep, all right.
That's correct, right? The school vacation week is the
Mhm.
10th. Yes. Any other questions?
So did you want to vote on this?
Yes, we do.
tonight?
We need to vote on it today because it has to go to the state. If there are no questions, I'll ask for a motion, Ms. Tobias.
Motion that the Milford Board of Education approves the 2017 Board of Education meeting schedule.
Your second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And the next item is our Human Resources Report. Mrs. Capazzo?
Thank you. You have in front of you for the month a listing of job postings as well as staff hired this month, retired and resigned employees, terminated employees, as well as stipend appointments. And the stipend appointments that we have presented this month are the 2 high school winter coaching stipends. And I believe we're totally full, which was good because a couple weeks ago we were still appointing some of the assistant coaches. So we're all set with winter sports, and I know some of the contests started tonight, so that's good. Good time.
Any questions for Mrs. Pasna? Dr. Gregory?
On the job postings, I see a November 10th math teacher. Did we lose someone?
Yes, we had a mid-year retirement of a math teacher at Warren High School.
Ms. Federico?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just curious on the recommendations for the lifeguards. So when does that apply? Is that?
Actually, there was a new law last year that was put into place. I don't know if it was a state law or what, where even for swim practices, we have to have a lifeguard on duty.
Okay.
So last year was the first year we started hiring certified lifeguards to oversee swim practice.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
The next item is the disbursement report. Mr. Cucitelli? Yep.
Thank you. The disbursement report is in your agenda. It lists all of the expenditures over $1,500 as required by our board procedures, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Questions from the board? I had a question, Mr. Riccitelli, on this page 55, the packet of 2/3 of the way down, Protrax. $11,000 early contract cancellation fee. What is that?
Sure. We were using Protrax with our professional development, for tracking professional development of teachers. A few years ago, one of the things that we were required to do was provide, the waterfall. Teachers were required to obtain continuing education units or CEUs, and we needed a mechanism to track those. It turns out that our current teacher evaluation system, something called Talent Ed, there's a module that we already have that we just need to turn on that would enable us to do a lot of the functions of Protrax. And part of the process was to end our contract with Protrax. This is actually through to the end of this school year. But the contract that was signed some years ago would not allow us to get out of this earlier.
Okay.
This was a negotiated price off of the full amount.
How long had we had that? I'm just thinking years, how long have we been
I
using it?
believe this is the 6th year with Protrax.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right. We'll move on to consent agenda. Ms. Tobias has a lot to read, so bear with her.
There you go, stay
Take a
awake.
deep breath.
All right, here we go. I make a motion that the Milford Board of Education approves consent agenda items. Motion that the Milford Board of Education approves item 1, the educational specifications for the roof replacement project at Live Oaks Elementary School, and authorize the superintendent to apply for state reimbursement from the State of Connecticut Department of Administrative Services, Office of School Construction Grants. Motion that the Milford Board of Education approves the plan specifications and estimates for the roof replacement at Live Oaks Elementary School. Did you say that? Motion that the Milford Board of Education approves item number 2, the educational specifications for the roof replacement project at JFK Elementary School, and authorize the superintendent to apply for state reimbursements from the state of Connecticut Department of Administrative Services Office of School Construction Grants. I make a motion that the Milford Board of Education approves the plan specifications and estimates for the roof replacement project at John F. Kennedy Elementary School. Motion that the Milford Board of Education approves item number 3, the educational specifications for the roof replacement project at Meadowside Elementary School, and authorize the superintendent to apply for state reimbursements from the state of Connecticut Department of Administrative Services, Office of School Construction Grants. Motion that the Milford Board of Education approves the plan specification and estimates for the roof replacement project at Meadowside Elementary School. I make a motion that the Milford Board of Education approves item number 4, the educational specifications for the roof replacement project at Orange Avenue Elementary School, and authorize the superintendent to apply for state reimbursement from the state of Connecticut Department of Administrative Services, Office of School Construction Grants. A motion that the Milford Board of Education approves the plans, specifications, and estimates for the roof replacement project at Orange Elementary School. I make a motion to approve item number 5, consideration of minutes, November 14th, 2016 business meeting, November 28th, 2016 committee of the whole meeting, and December 5th, 2016 special meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second. I got the easy job.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, we move on. There was no new business, so we move on to board comment. Any board comment? All right, then a motion to adjourn to executive session.
Okay. Motion to adjourn into executive session for discussion of salary adjustments for non-union employees. Invited into the session are Dr. Fieser, Mr. Riccitelli, and Mrs. Capazzi.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Where are we going? Where are we going? Listen, I need a break now. Where are we going?
I have a fireplace and I wanted to convert it to gas, so the guy came.
All right, I'll call the meeting back to order. Mr. Vice, you have a motion?
Okay. I have a motion here that the Milford Board of Education approves the sum of $66,550 to be used for salary increases for non-union employees at the discretion of the superintendent for 2017 and 2018.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Roll call then. Claire Casey?
Yes.
Suzanne DeBias?
Yes.
Jen Federico?
Yes.
Jess Gregory?
No.
Walter Hagedorn?
Yes.
Tom Jagozinski?
Yes.
Susan Krasinski?
Yes.
Earl Whiskeyman?
Yes.
Susan Glennon, no. Motion passes 7 yes, 2 no. Motion to adjourn?
I don't have that here. No. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And we're adjourned. Motion carries.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
All of you.
Yes, yes, yes.